Sebastian Vettel's retirement last season came as a shock to everyone who follows the sport. That one black and white Instagram video was like the checkered flag at the end of an era of Formula 1. Seb was a four-time world champion, but his time at Ferrari should have been rewarded with more championships. But just 10 months after his retirement, Seb is hinting at a return to the Formula 1 grid. Today we'll check out what one of the most respected Formula 1 drivers of all time has to say about his future in the sport. Let's get started. The scenes at the end of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix last year were something rarely seen in Formula 1. The entire sport, fans, all the teams, the media, the governing body, literally everyone came together to applaud one of the most respected and talented Formula 1 drivers we've ever seen. Sebastian Vettel's 4 consecutive world championships with Red Bull turned just an energy drinks company, as Lewis Hamilton once called them, into one of the top teams on the grid. He then spent 6 agonizing years at Ferrari, attempting to put the entire team on his back as he challenged the dominant Mercedes team for drivers' titles. His swan song seasons at Aston Martin ended a year too early, unfortunately, but so is the way of Formula 1. It's impossible to end on a high note. No one wants to leave when they're winning, and why would they? It is only when the battle to get back to the front begins that drivers start to ask themselves if it's really worth devoting their lives to anymore. The Vettel that won those titles with Red Bull between 2010 and 2013 was a driver perceived as arrogant and often cast as the villain. Nicknamed Fingerboy for his triumphant wagging of a digit after a victory, and the often ruthless, selfish, win-at-all-costs attitude of the infamous multi-2-1 incident with Mark Webber, where he disobeyed team orders, so determined was he to take the win. Yet on that final race weekend of his career, all 20 drivers took Vettel out for a farewell dinner, where his great rival Lewis Hamilton picked up the bill. They were, without exception, gushing in their praise for Vettel. 200 members of the F1 paddock from teams, media and F1 turned out to run the track with Vettel at Yas Marina on his final Saturday night. Their small way of saying Danke Seb, as their t-shirts read. Vettel revealed that the decision to quit Formula 1 was contributed by many factors that played a role collectively. It was a personal decision. He said, "The first months went by quickly, and it was nice to enjoy the freedom and schedule my own time. Many factors played a role in my decision to quit. I didn't quit because I no longer liked the sport, was too slow, or really wanted to do something else. Quitting is something very personal." The German racer revealed that the time he spent as a racing driver doing the job properly was buying into the time he wanted to spend on his children, which clearly isn't going to come back. Hence, he didn't want to compromise any of that. He has been busy since retirement as well, though. He helped found a German sailing team for the Sail GP series, though a last-place finish at the team's first race won't have done much to scratch that competitive itch he will always have. Racing David Coulthard around the Nürburgring in Formula 1 cars might have been fun, but it definitely won't have offered the battles he got to enjoy during his racing career. Despite retiring from Formula 1 last year, Vettel is almost 6 years younger than the oldest driver on the current grid, Fernando Alonso. And it is perhaps Alonso who has inspired Vettel's recent comments. Remember, the 2-time champion retired from Formula 1 for a couple of years in pursuit of racing's Triple Crown, before returning to the team that helped him win his 2 drivers' titles. Vettel was recently asked by Martin Brundle whether he would follow in the footsteps of fellow world champions Nigel Mansell, Alonso and Kimi Raikkonen by returning after a hiatus. "I can't say no, because that you don't know," Vettel said. "I think it's something that if you asked all of them, probably some of them would have said no. And some of them I don't know, but in the end all of them came back, so I can't exclude it." Vettel spent his last 2 seasons in F1 driving for an Aston Martin team that appeared to be mired in the midfield, but his replacement Alonso has taken advantage of a vastly improved 2023 car to seal 7 podiums in the opening 14 races. There is little doubt that the team's lack of competitiveness during his time with them played a part in Vettel's decision to step away from the sport, and he admits only the right challenge could tempt him into a comeback. It probably will depend much on when, and obviously it's not endless, because 36 is not like, in 10 years' time. Maybe I'll think about it, then time has passed, but it will depend on the challenge. Whatever, but it's not in my head right now. And I'm enjoying the sort of outlook of the challenge of what to do next. It will be the way I see it, the biggest challenge for any racing driver and the biggest challenge for any sportsman, sportswoman. What do you do after? This is the problem for Vettel. What does he do now? He is involved with a sailing team, he devotes time to climate activism and fighting for causes he sees as worthy. But will anything ever really replace Formula 1? If the right challenge came along, he could be tempted back. Perhaps a certain German brand joining the grid in a couple of years could tempt him. Anyway, Seb continued by saying, "Because naturally, you will be like 30, 35, 40, 45, depending on your sport and discipline. And then what? There's a lot of life left, and life can be great even though you're not racing. You know, the absolute limit in the fastest car in the world. And you can still do lots of great things that give you great pleasure. One of the big problems for a returning driver is the fitness levels. When Kevin Magnussen returned to Haas after a one-year hiatus on short notice, he struggled with his fitness and neck strength. Daniel Ricciardo found it hard this year as well, despite being a full-time reserve driver. The German admits he has maintained his fitness to the point that the only major obstacle to an instant return for him would be rebuilding the neck strength required to withstand the extreme G-forces F1 drivers face. However, he insists that maintaining his fitness is a lifestyle choice rather than aimed at preparing for a return to the grid. Asked if he is race ready, Vettel said, "Yeah, but because I want to, not because I'm like, come back, or if somebody falls out, I'm going to step in. Not because of that. But so I guess my neck is not up to speed? No, it can't be, but everything else is pretty good, I would say." Vettel's admission that he would be open to a return and that he is fit enough to do so has of course sent the sport into full-on speculation mode. Where could he go? Who would he drive for? When might we see him back? The first place that seemed to come to mind for many people was Red Bull as a replacement for Checo, despite Christian Horner having said that Checo will 100% be at the team next year. Of course, Helmut Marko was instantly asked about Vettel potentially coming back to Red Bull, but after getting reprimanded by the team for racist comments made to the media about Sergio Perez, he was very careful not to say anything about the Mexican driver. Hopefully, Marko can finally be held back by Red Bull instead of constantly embarrassing the team and bringing the media eye onto them. Marko expressed his reluctance to bring Vettel to the team, saying, "Well, next to Verstappen, I honestly don't want to do that to him." Marko cited Red Bull's contractual obligations until 2024 as an obstacle to such partnership as well. He did emphasize that modern motorsport is about more than just combustion engines and petrol though, hinting at Vettel's ambitions beyond the track. So what do we actually know about his potential return to Formula 1? Well, for now, not a huge amount, but that could change very soon. Suzuka holds high sentimental value for the German star. While fans were still getting used to the feeling of not seeing him drive after his retirement, the 36-year-old teased the fans with news about a special event in Japan. At the Red Bull Formula Nürburgring event, Sebastian Vettel made an announcement that he would be making an announcement very soon. Vettel revealed he'll be a part of the Suzuka race weekend and claimed something will definitely come. He also told track presenter Evie Scher that there was going to be a special event in Japan which he was nervous about. While it is basically guaranteed that we won't see him racing on track in Japan, he'll definitely be a feature of the weekend and perhaps we might know more about his future then. From his 2008 Monza victory right through to the end of his career, Sebastian showed he was one of the best to ever drive in the sport. But would you want to see him back behind the wheel of a Formula 1 car? Or do you think his future lies elsewhere? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.